recognizes and honors his contribution to first increasing awareness of what heritage is, the heritage of Madras, of Chennai specifically, and also his tremendously productive contribution, ranging over a wide field when it came to the history of Madras. Muthu didn't consider himself a historian. He was not a trained historian. He was a journalist. He actually had 3 careers. Many of you know that. The first was as a journalist in Sri Lanka, then known as Ceylon. I think that is a period that is little known, perhaps even to the family. And I've suggested earlier to Sriram and others that it's worth exploring. His work at the Times of Ceylon, his contributions as a sports journalist, and in his author's note to this book, Madras Miscellany, A Decade of People, Places and Periphery, Muthiah says that in Ceylon he was interested in history but passionate about all sports, particularly rugby, I think. In Madras, he said it was inverted. He remained interested in all sports but became passionate about chronicling history. He regarded himself as a chronicler, as a journalist who involved himself in the lifelong task of chronicling what was interesting about the past, the modern past, I should say. I don't think he did very much for the early period or ancient period, but there was plenty to explore. The difference between how a historian would approach this and Muthiah's approach or method, which had its followers, many colleagues I think were influenced by this method, I think was this. Muthiah began with the proposition that Madras, the first modern city in India, many people were not aware of its history, its importance, and so on. And from that proposition, he displayed his gifts as a journalist in contributing to making good that gap. So Madras got its unconventional, one-of-a-kind historian or chronicler who brought to the subject a gifted journalist's curiosity, training in rapid methods of research and verification, humor, liveliness, an eye for the small things and for little people, and accessibility. And this, I think, is the source of the tremendously productive contribution, that corpus of books relating to heritage that we all have enjoyed. The professional historian may express skepticism about this way of discovering Madras, past and present, and may even describe this as journalistic, the method journalistic in a somewhat belittling, if not dismissive way. But then it must be realized that this is something trained historians have been unwilling or unable to do, as far as I know. A long-term failure that brings into focus the advantages and social value of intelligent journalism. So Muthiah's engaging, at times elegiac biography of a city that is, how old is it, 380. This feeds into the history of India's and the world's cities. And I think the service to history is valuable precisely because it is different from the historian's craft. The experienced journalist's passionate interest in exploring the metropolis is wide-ranging and remarkably sustained, with the capacity to surprise. His curiosity was inexhaustible, his approach eclectic, liberal, and mostly non-judgmental. His eye always on the detail, the significant as well as the oddity, sometimes eccentric in what it explored, the sense of history sobering, and his use of oral history resourceful. His method, I think, was fact-based and simple. When there were errors, he immediately corrected it, or had it corrected, as is just being mentioned. But above all, his voice was that of a civic storyteller, which I think was what made it so engaging and interesting. Again, in relation to journalism, professional journalists tend to be possessive about their sources, often hiding them from the public gaze, which is one of journalism's major faults. Muthiah is good enough, has always been good enough to introduce us to all his major sources. His memory, whose only strength is remembering how to access help from different quarters, to quote him. The personal library he built up on Madras past and present, the welter of handwritten or typed notes assembled over decades, the research done for the institutional histories he has written, which goes beyond those institutions, and last and most important, this is what I want to emphasize, my readers. This is particularly interesting because Muthiah claimed to avoid modern technology, the mobile phone, computers, and so on, although he actually made pretty good use of all that. But what he really showed is what today is called mutualization in a newspaper context, a term coined by Alan Rusbridger, former editor of The Guardian. When a newspaper or journalists seek support, help from readers, some readers who are experts, others who are just lay people, but you respect their experience and knowledge and reach out to them. And so far as The Guardian was concerned, Alan Rusbridger claimed that they were able to do major projects, major coverage that the newspaper couldn't have possibly done without this support, this involvement, these contributions from readers. And I think Muthiah, Postman Knox, and the whole experience of engaging with readers, seeking their support, accepting their contributions after verifying them with humility, I think this is a great example of mutualization in a true sense so far as Chennai or Madras is concerned. There's a Hindu connection to this which I want to briefly touch upon. I spoke to Sri Ram earlier about it to verify what my impressions. Once Chennai heritage, I think that's what made for a sustained future. It was very important. And I commend Shankar and everyone else who has come to the support they're not sought donations, I'm told, from individuals, but only from corporate organizations. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for keeping Chennai Musings, which began in 1991, not only alive, but going strong. The Hindu, Muthiah began to write for the Hindu, and from 1999, he began to publish the Madras Miscellany, his weekly column that appears on Monday, that appeared very recently. Monday, Sri Ram told me it was 973. He's done 973 and failed to score. I think he wanted to do 1,000, live long enough to do 1,000 columns, but it came pretty close, and I'm sure that can be completed at some point. We'll have to talk to the editor of the Hindu to see what can be done about that, to make good that deficit. But I just want to note that two things from the first column he wrote, the Madras Miscellany, and one was about the forgotten founders. I think many of you may know this, but I was quite amused and possibly irritated by the fact that somebody who had nothing to do with Chennai hit the jackpot, as he put it. And this is what he wrote in that first column in 1999. And I quote, "What always struck me as sad about this road naming business is that the names of three persons who deserve to be remembered the most in Madras do not have any road, locality or building named after them. Andrew Cohen, Francis Day, and Berry Timmappa, the founders of Madras, have all been consigned to oblivion, while Damaria, Chennappa, Nayak, or Vijayanagar and Chandragiri were nothing to do with Madras, as in the jackpot in Chennai, even in British times. The other, Muthiah's love of gossip, I think, comes out in this column, and I think the Hindu can claim some credit for publishing this particular piece, quoting the well-known, much loved, very popular cardiologist called Dr. K.P. Mishra, who said that humor was very good for overcoming illnesses and so on. And this is what Muthiah says about it. I can't vouch for because journalists can also report gossip and say it's gossip. Speaking recently at a meeting on humor for better living, he, that is Dr. Mishra, had a story to tell about, well, he insisted it was the Hindu. Apparently the paper had published, I mentioned this in the last meeting, and I apologize to those who heard this before, but there are many others who haven't. I think it'd be useful to mention this. Apparently the paper had published a notice announcing the death of a patient of his. The man, alive and kicking, kicked up a row with the paper after fielding several calls condoling with him on his passing. The paper apologized the next day, stating, quote, "We had yesterday announced the death of Mr. So-and-so. We are informed that he is alive and well. We regret it." So I think heritage is very important, and in conclusion, I just want to mention for those who want to continue this mission, that you don't have to just repeat what has been done before. You may want to move in fresh directions also, which Muthu would have greatly appreciated. He would have wanted that. And certain ground rules are laid about heritage in a very fine book by the historian Romila Thapa called Indian Cultures as Heritage, Contemporary Past. I just want to mention one or two of the ground rules. Heritage is that which is inherited and can refer to objects, ideas, or practices. It is recognized in various ways, from genes to geometrical structures, from the ways in which societies were organized to how people belonging to various strata of society were treated and so on. Another ground rule is heritage can be of two kinds. One is our natural heritage, and Madras Musings has largely dealt with that in the environment and so on. What is part, not just natural heritage, but heritage when it comes to architecture, buildings, and so on. The other heritage is the one that is cultivated by human effort, often called cultural heritage. And the other point Romila Thapa makes is that there is a plurality of cultures which form the ingredients of heritage. And this has to be recognized. I think Muthu recognized this, and his journalistic method of going all over the place to find it, but applying the techniques and tools that a trained journalist brings to his field, I think that made a big difference. And I hope that Chennai Heritage will diversify its activities to new areas, and also look at ideas, institutions, social practices, and so on, even more than it has been doing so far. And I wish Madras Musings success. I'm sure Shankar and others will continue their solid support for this. And I'm told around 11,000, the printed subscription is 11,000, but it also reaches through online many more people. This has to grow in a steady way, and I assure you our support on behalf of myself and also the institution that I represent.